The observatory dome clicked shut above Elias Novik's head, sealing away the night sky he'd been studying for the past 7 hours. Fatigue settled into his bones as he gathered his notes, another night of tracking the strange stellar anomaly that had appeared 3 weeks ago. As the lead astronomer at the remote Blackridge Mountain facility, he'd grown accustomed to solitude, but lately even the stars seemed poor company. He stepped outside into the crisp autumn air, his breath forming small clouds in the darkness. The observatory stood isolated on the mountainside, surrounded by dense forest, exactly why he'd chosen this posting after leaving NASA. No light pollution, no distractions, no painful reminders of his failed marriage. Elias was halfway to his cabin when a brilliant streak of light tore across the sky. Too bright, too fast, and moving at an impossible angle for any meteor he'd ever documented. His scientific curiosity immediately overtook his exhaustion as the object disappeared behind the tree line with a distant boom that shook the ground beneath his feet. "That was no meteor," he whispered, heart racing as he hurried inside for his emergency pack and hiking boots. 20 minutes later, Elias pushed through dense underbrush, following the faint glow emanating from a small ravine. The smell hit him first, ozone and something alien, metallic yet organic. When he crested the ridge, his flashlight beam caught on a sleek metallic object half buried in disturbed earth. Too small for a commercial aircraft, too sophisticated for any military design he recognized. "My God," he breathed, approaching cautiously. The craft's surface shimmered with an iridescent quality, like oil on water, its seamless hull punctured by what appeared to be impact damage. No markings, no visible engines, nothing that matched any human technology. A section of the hull shifted suddenly, sliding open with a pneumatic hiss. Elias stumbled backward, nearly falling as his scientific mind warred with primal fear. Light spilled from the opening, and then movement. A figure emerged, stumbling and clearly injured. Elias froze, his flashlight beam catching on silver-green skin that seemed to shimmer with tiny bioluminescent patterns. The being looked remarkably humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, roughly his height. But its skin color and the delicate gill-like structures at its neck were unmistakably not of this world. Most striking was the cascade of hair, deep crimson like dying stars, that fell around a face that was both alien and hauntingly beautiful. Large eyes, too rich a violet to be human, found his in the darkness. "Help," the alien spoke, the word perfectly formed in English though accompanied by a melodic undertone that no human vocal cords could produce. "Please." Blood, or something like it, deep blue and iridescent, seeped from a wound across its torso. The being reached toward him, swayed, then collapsed at the edge of the craft. Every rational thought told Elias to run, to call authorities, to report this unprecedented contact. Instead, he found himself moving forward, kneeling beside the unconscious figure. Up close, he could see the being's face was feminine in structure, her features delicate despite their alien nature. "What have I got myself into?" he muttered, but he was already checking her pulse, which thrummed rapidly against his fingers in an odd double beat, and assessing her injuries. The scientist in him noted details even as he wrapped his jacket around her. The temperature of her skin, slightly cooler than human, the weightlessness of her crimson hair as it brushed his arm, the faint pattern of luminescence that seemed to pulse beneath her skin. In the distance, he heard the approaching thrum of helicopters. Someone else had seen the crash. With a decision that would forever alter his life, Elias carefully lifted the alien woman into his arms and headed back toward his cabin, away from the coming lights and the world that would never understand what had fallen from the stars tonight. 3 days passed since Elias had brought the alien woman to his cabin. She'd regained consciousness the second night, introducing herself as Thara, a diplomatic envoy from a star system she called Veldaris. Her wound was healing remarkably fast, the skin knitting together with an unusual luminescent quality that fascinated him. "Your atmospheric composition is quite different from ours," Thara explained, sitting wrapped in one of his blankets by the fireplace. "It makes me lightheaded sometimes." Elias nodded, trying not to stare at how the firelight played across her silver-green skin, highlighting the subtle patterns that seemed to shift with her emotions. "Is that why you have those?" He gestured toward the delicate gill-like structures at her neck. "Yes, they help me filter your air. On my world, we have higher oxygen content and different trace gases." She touched the structures self-consciously. "They're also considered quite attractive on my world." He blushed and quickly changed the subject. The authorities are searching the crash site. Military helicopters have been circling the area for days. Thara's violet eyes widened with alarm. They cannot find me. My mission was peaceful contact, but your governments? She trailed off. I know, Elias said grimly. First contact would be militarized. You'd be studied, dissected, probably. They fell into silence, the weight of her predicament hanging between them. She was entirely dependent on him, a stranger from another world. Later that evening, as he prepared a simple dinner, Thara explored his cabin with childlike curiosity. She marveled at his books, ran her six-fingered hands over his telescope, and paused at the photographs on his desk. Your mate, she asked, holding a picture of his ex-wife. Ex-wife, he corrected. She left 2 years ago, said I was too obsessed with the stars to see what was right in front of me. He laughed without humor. Ironic that the stars literally brought someone to my doorstep. Thara tilted her head, her crimson hair cascading over one shoulder. On Veldaris, astronomers are revered. They guide our ships, predict stellar events, connect us to the cosmos. Sounds like my kind of place, Elias said, surprised by the wistfulness in his voice. That night, a cultural misunderstanding led to their first real connection. Elias had offered Thara his bed while he took the couch, but she'd been horrified. On my world, to make someone sleep apart is the gravest insult, she explained, distressed. It implies they are diseased or dishonorable. After awkward negotiations, they compromised with Elias making a pallet on the floor beside the bed. As darkness fell, he found himself sharing stories of Earth with her, explaining constellations visible from his window, while she described the twin moons of her homeworld and the crystal cities that reflected their light. Your world sounds beautiful, he murmured, half asleep. As does yours, she replied softly, though I've seen so little of it. Maybe someday I can show you more, he found himself promising, not understanding why the thought of her leaving someday made his chest tighten. In the darkness, her bioluminescent patterns glowed gently, casting a soft light that reminded him of distant galaxies. Just before sleep claimed him, he felt her hand reach down from the bed, her cool fingers finding his in the darkness, a touch that bridged the vast distance between their worlds. Morning sunlight streamed through the cabin windows as Elias returned from checking the perimeter. Military presence had increased overnight. 2 unmarked black SUVs now parked at the base of the mountain, visible from his vantage point through binoculars. They're getting closer, he announced, shutting the door firmly behind him. Thara looked up from the astronomy textbook she'd been reading. In the weeks since her arrival, she devoured his library, learning English with remarkable speed. Her wound had fully healed, leaving only a faint luminescent line across her torso. We should prepare to move, she said, her melodic voice steady despite the danger. I endanger you by staying. Elias shook his head. Where would we go? This cabin is isolated. It's our best chance. He didn't examine why he'd said our instead of your, or why the thought of her leaving alone created a hollow feeling in his chest. Instead, he focused on practicalities, securing the windows, gathering emergency supplies, planning escape routes if the worst happened. As they worked side by side, the space between them seemed to shrink. Their hands brushed more frequently, lingering a moment longer each time. He found himself noticing details, how her crimson hair caught the light, the graceful way she moved, the subtle changes in her skin's luminescence when he stood close to her. That evening a storm rolled in, thunder cracking overhead as rain lashed against the windows. The power flickered, then died completely, plunging the cabin into darkness. I'll get the emergency lantern, Elias said, but before he could move, Thara's skin brightened, casting a soft silver-green glow throughout the room. Is this sufficient? She asked, her violet eyes reflecting the light from her own body. Elias stared transfixed. You're beautiful, he whispered, the words escaping before he could catch them. The patterns on her skin pulsed brighter, concentrating around her face and neck in what he now recognized as her version of a blush. Thank you, she murmured. Among my people, to glow for someone is intimate. The air between them thickened with unspoken tension. Outside, the storm raged, but inside the cabin, a different kind of electricity charged the atmosphere. Elias, she said softly, stepping closer. On my world, when 2 beings share danger and shelter, it creates a bond. I feel that bond with you, though I don't know if humans experience such things. His heart raced as she reached for his hand, guiding it to the side of her neck where her gill structures fluttered beneath his fingertips. "This is how my people show trust," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "These are vulnerable places. We only allow those we care for to touch them." Elias swallowed hard, acutely aware of her cooler skin against his fingertips, the delicate structures moving with her quickened breath. Acting on instinct, he leaned forward and pressed his lips gently to her forehead in a tender human gesture of affection. The luminescence beneath her skin pulsed in waves that matched his heartbeat. Her eyes, wide and wondering, searched his face. "Is that how humans show affection?" "One way," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "Show me others," she whispered, her six-fingered hands sliding up to frame his face. As the storm surrounded them in a cocoon of sound and fury, Elias closed the final distance between their worlds. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with growing confidence as they discovered each other. Her skin glowed brighter with each touch, illuminating the cabin with starlight made flesh as they explored the similarities and differences between their bodies, finding a harmony neither had expected, but both had quietly hoped for. Later, tangled together in the darkness, her head resting on his chest, Thyra traced patterns on his skin that mirrored those glowing on her own. "Among my people," she whispered, "this connection we've found would be celebrated as Valisari, a cosmic alignment rarer and more precious than any astronomical event." Elias held her closer, knowing that whatever came tomorrow, government agents, alien rescuers, or just another day in hiding, his universe had fundamentally changed. For someone who had spent his life studying distant stars, he had finally found one close enough to touch. 2 weeks after their first night together, Elias woke to find Thyra standing motionless by the window, her attention fixed on the pre-dawn sky. In the half-light, her silver-green skin was muted, the luminescent patterns pulsing in a rhythm he hadn't seen before. "What's wrong?" he asked, joining her. "They're coming," she whispered, pointing to a particular cluster of stars. "My people, I can feel the resonant signature of their ships entering your solar system." His heart sank even as he tried to smile. "That's good, isn't it? You'll be safe." She turned to him, her violet eyes troubled. "Yes, but—" Her six-fingered hand reached for his. "Elias, what happens when they arrive?" The question hung between them, heavy with implications neither had been willing to face. Her rescue meant their separation. Different planets, different species, different lives. "How long do we have?" he asked finally. 3 Earth days, perhaps 4. Her voice wavered. "They'll establish orbit and send a retrieval craft." That day passed in strained normalcy as they both avoided the looming reality. Elias checked his perimeter cameras. The government vehicles remained at the base of the mountain, seemingly unaware of the much larger arrival approaching from above. When night fell, they made love with desperate intensity, as if trying to memorize each other's bodies. After, as she lay curled against him, her skin glowing softly in the darkness, Thyra spoke of her home. The floating gardens of Veldaris, the crystal spires of the capital city, the scientific advancements her people could share with humanity under proper diplomatic relations. "You could come with me," she said suddenly, propping herself up to look at him. "As Earth's first ambassador to Veldaris." The offer stunned him. "Leave Earth, everything I know." "Is there so much holding you here?" she asked gently. He thought about his isolated existence, his failed marriage, the career that had stalled after his controversial theories about intelligent life had made him a pariah among his peers. What cosmic irony that he'd been right all along. "I'd be an alien there," he said finally, "just as you are here." Her luminescence brightened as she traced his features. "Yes, but you wouldn't be alone." The next morning brought new complications. His satellite phone rang, the observatory director, warning that military personnel were asking questions, examining telescope logs, specifically interested in the night of Thyra's arrival. "They're coming up the mountain tomorrow," the director said. "Whatever you're involved in, Novik, I hope it's worth your career." As he hung up, Thyra touched his arm. "They know," she said simply. "We need to leave tonight," he agreed. "My old research cabin on the North Ridge, it's not on any official maps." They packed quickly, taking only essentials: food, warm clothing, his astronomy equipment that could potentially help them communicate with her approaching rescue ship. As sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, they left the main cabin, hiking through dense forest toward the more remote location. The research cabin was small and dusty from disuse, but secure. After settling in, they stood outside under the vast canopy of stars. Thyra pointed out the faint moving light that was her people's ship, now visible to the naked eye. "Tomorrow night they'll be close enough to receive my signal," she said. "I can use parts from your radio equipment to boost my communicator." Elias nodded, his throat tight. One more night together, then decisions that would alter both their lives forever. He pulled her close, breathing in her alien scent that had become so familiar, so essential. That night, as moonlight filtered through the cabin windows, they shared their most intimate moments yet. Every touch, every kiss felt like both a promise and a goodbye. Thyra's skin glowed with patterns he now recognized as expressions of deep emotion, illuminating their entwined bodies as they moved together. "If I leave," he whispered against her neck, "I can never come back to Earth." She pulled back to look at him, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "If I stay, my people will never attempt peaceful contact again, the consequences for your world." "I know," he said, silencing her with a gentle kiss. "Let's not decide tonight. Tonight is just for us." As they lost themselves in each other once more, neither noticed the helicopters circling in the distance, nor the heat signatures their bodies created, visible to the military thermal sensors now scanning the mountainside. Dawn broke with the unmistakable sound of helicopter rotors. Elias jerked awake, immediately alert to the danger. Through the cabin's small window, he could see 3 military helicopters approaching from the south. "Thyra, wake up," he urged, already pulling on his clothes. "They've found us." She was instantly alert, her crimson hair wild around her face as she dressed quickly. "My people are in range now. I need 10 minutes to assemble the signal device." Elias calculated rapidly. "I'll buy you time. The old mining tunnels run behind this cabin. If they breach the front, slip out the back and follow the tunnel north." While Thyra worked feverishly to connect her communicator to his radio equipment, Elias watched the helicopters land in a clearing half a mile away. Through his binoculars, he counted at least 12 armed personnel disembarking, their black tactical gear ominous against the forest green. "They're coming on foot," he reported grimly. "Standard containment formation, 7 minutes, maybe less." His mind raced through options, each worse than the last. Running meant leaving the equipment behind, equipment Thyra needed to signal her rescue ship. Fighting was impossible against trained military personnel. Surrendering would mean Thyra's capture, likely death or endless experimentation. "It's ready," she announced finally, the makeshift device humming with power. "But I need to be outside for clear transmission." "Too dangerous," he said immediately. "They'll spot you." Her violet eyes met his, resolute. "It's our only chance. You've risked everything for me, Elias. Now let me do this." Before he could argue further, the device in her hands emitted a high-pitched tone, then projected a holographic star chart into the air between them. A pulsing light indicated the position of her rescue ship. "They're closer than I thought," she whispered, hope lighting her features. "Already in Earth's atmosphere." The sound of boots crunching on forest debris cut their moment short. Elias peered out the window again. The soldiers were less than 2 minutes away, spreading out to surround the cabin. "No time," he said, making a decision. "We transmit from the tunnel entrance. It's partially exposed but offers cover." Grabbing essential supplies and the signal device, they slipped out the cabin's back door just as shouts came from the front. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a stand of pines, its old timber supports groaning as they ducked inside. 20 feet in, a partial collapse created a natural window to the sky while providing cover from ground forces. Here, Elias positioned Thyra by the opening. "Do it now." She activated the device, which projected a brilliant beam of light upward, cutting through the morning sky like an inverse lightning strike. The light pulsed in complex patterns, a language of light and energy that Elias couldn't understand but found beautiful nonetheless. Gunshots rang out. The soldiers had spotted the light beam. Bullets splintered the wood near the tunnel entrance as Elias pulled Thyra deeper into the protective darkness. "Did it work?" he asked urgently. Her skin glowed with excitement. "Yes, they've acknowledged and—" A deafening roar from above cut off her words as the air pressure changed dramatically. Through the tunnel's opening, they glimpsed a massive ship breaking through the clouds, its design similar to Thara's crashed vessel, but vastly larger. The military forces outside redirected their attention upward, some firing uselessly at the enormous craft. "Now we have a choice to make," Thara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They'll send a retrieval pod to these coordinates in moments." Elias looked back toward the tunnel entrance, toward Earth and everything he'd ever known. Then he looked at Thara, alien, beautiful, the most real connection he'd ever found in a lifetime of isolation. "I think I made my choice the night I found you," he said simply. A blinding light flooded the tunnel as a smaller craft hovered directly overhead, deploying what looked like a column of liquid light. "That's our way up," Thara explained, her hand finding his. "Last chance to change your mind." Outside, the soldiers had regrouped, advancing on the tunnel with renewed purpose. A bullet ricocheted off the rock wall near them. Elias squeezed her hand. "Show me the stars, Thara, show me your world." Together they stepped into the light, feeling their bodies become weightless as they were drawn upward. Below, the soldiers breached the tunnel entrance just in time to see them vanish into the retrieval craft. Inside the alien vessel, they were greeted by beings similar to Thara, silver-green skin, crimson hair, expressions of astonishment at the human in their midst. Thara spoke rapidly in her native tongue, her hand never leaving Elias. As the ship ascended through Earth's atmosphere, Elias watched his planet grow smaller through a viewing portal. The blue-green sphere that had been his entire universe was now just one world among countless others, beautiful, but no longer his only home. "Are you afraid?" Thara asked, joining him at the portal. "Terrified," he admitted with a smile. "But I've spent my life studying distant stars. I never imagined I'd get to visit them." She glowed with happiness, her luminescence creating patterns he now recognized as love. "On Veldaris, we have a saying, the universe brings together what belongs together across any distance." As Earth disappeared from view and the ship accelerated toward her home system, Elias pulled her close. They had crossed the boundaries between worlds, between species, between everything that should have kept them apart. Whatever challenges awaited them, cultural differences, biological adaptations, political complications, they would face together. For an astronomer who had always looked outward and an alien diplomat sent to make first contact, they had found in each other the most unexpected discovery of all, a connection that transcended the vast emptiness of space, proving that even between the stars, love could find a way to shine.